Hi, it's John, and welcome to the channel 4:44 a.m. with the big blue mug of coffee. Hope you're having a great day today, Sunday, June the 22nd, and I hope your weather is better where you are than it is here in Calgary. It felt like November here with tons of rain. It was cold yesterday, very windy as well, so not a great weekend for the first weekend of summer. But thank you for being here, and if you're a subscriber, thank you very much. If you're not, please click on subscribe. Thank you. So Bill C-5 passed the other day. You're probably aware of this, and I put out a warning about this bill early last week. I don't think it's a good bill. It got passed by all the parties in Parliament. Mark Carney looked like the cat who swallowed the canary the other day because he got the Conservatives to buy in on this. I've seen Scott Moe and Danielle Smith in a news conference the other day. They were all for C-5. I watched Brett Wilson, who's an Albertan, a strong Albertan, who's very, very into the oil and gas industry. I saw him on with Candace Malcolm the other day, putting trust in Carney and the Liberals, which just stunned me because I don't trust these people at all. Bill C-5 was watered down somewhat, but Carney's inner circle now have the power to pick and fast track what they call nation building projects here. And I don't think my idea of nation-building projects, and probably your idea of nation-building projects, are the same as Mark Carney's and the Liberal Party. So what I want to do here is look at a number of things. I'm going to look at this thing a little bit differently. Hopefully I can get through this quickly. I want to look at, first, Danielle Smith, the Premier of Alberta, and what she wants and how that's going so far. I want to look at Scott Moe and Danielle Smith in a news conference they had the other day, what they want. They want a lot, and they've got really big plans. Then, I know it's cringeworthy, but I'm going to show you Mark Carney and his plans for C-5, not as big as Moe and Smith's ideas. And then I'm going to throw the elephant into the room because the big thing is the elephant. The elephant is hiding right now behind the couch. I can see its trunk. I can see part of its ear and part of its head. But it is coming, folks. The elephant in the room is coming. And Mark Carney revealed that the other day as well. And he brought back the word. We're on summer vacation in Parliament, but the word is back. The word he used constantly during the election campaign to scare voters to vote for him. The word is back. He uses it still all the time, but it came out the other day when he was talking about Bill C-5. But this hasn't been resolved yet. And we'll get to that in just a moment. So first, Danielle Smith, what does she want from Mark Carney and the Liberal government?
We want to see a guaranteed access to economic corridors that include pipelines to get to new markets. We want the repealing of Bill C-69 so that we do not have an unending process for approvals that essentially means no more pipelines can be built. We need to lift the tanker ban off the BC coast. We need to eliminate the oil and gas emissions cap that has been proposed, which is a production cap. We need to scrap the so-called clean electricity regulations. We need to end the treatment of plastics as toxic. We need to abandon the net zero car mandate. We need to return oversight of the industrial carbon tax fully to provincial jurisdiction. And we need to halt the federal censorship of energy companies.
So why am I back at this again? Because so far, Madam Premier, the federal government, Mark Carney and the Liberals have given you a big FU when it comes to two of these things. I'm not going to play the clips again, but during the campaign, he said he wouldn't repeal Bill C-69. We've added on another one now. They're not going to get rid of the net zero electric vehicle mandate. Here's a story from the National Post on the screen. We know this. And the Conservatives have been after the Liberals in House of Commons in question period about this. They wrap it up in, we're supporting the car industry with our net vehicle mandate. But no, they're not. If they were doing that, they would allow the car companies who know what cars to build and know what people want to drive, they'd allow them to choose what cars they make. But I don't want to go too far down that road. But Madam Premier, how many of these things have to be ticked off your list before you start leading the independence movement? Because two of them are gone already. So that's what I want to know. But then we get Scott Moe and Danielle Smith, and they want big things, folks. And they were all in favor of C-5 as well. I don't know why. Because this gives all the control to Mark Carney and the Liberals to make decisions on Alberta and Saskatchewan's future. Here's what Scott Moe said, sitting beside Danielle Smith. They got big plans, folks.
the very fact that Bill C-5 has been introduced, which is a bill to legislate around the current regulatory process that we have, I think is an admission that this hard work does have to happen. And so we've been supportive of, yes, prioritizing projects in the short term, which is really a stopgap to fixing the entirety of the regulatory process that we have in Canada so that all projects can move forward. In Saskatchewan, we don't have 1 or 2 or 3 projects that are a priority. We have literally in excess of 100 projects.
Scott Moe and Danielle Smith have big plans, folks. Moe says literally in excess of 100 projects. And you see Danielle Smith there nodding along with that. So hundreds of projects in Alberta and Saskatchewan need to be built right now. We want this stuff done. And Mark Carney is now in charge of what gets built here. Alberta and Saskatchewan are down on their knees begging Mark Carney and the Liberal government now to get stuff built. Again, Danielle Smith, when are you going to join the independence movement here in Alberta? Because Carney's asked in this news conference about the passing of Bill C-5. The reporter uses the words great speed when it comes to building these projects that Carney promised during the election campaign. The first word out of Carney's mouth, I think, is it depends.
Hello, Prime Minister. Paul Dutch, Global News. You spoke during the election about the need to build at speeds we've never seen before. Yep. Today you met with the premiers. How soon should Canadians expect for you to name projects of national significance?
Well, it's that depends. It's the right question. You're absolutely right in the premise of the question. That's the need. But we're all responsible for that. When I say we're all responsible for that, obviously it's the federal government, the provinces, Indigenous rights holders, the proponents of these projects, labor, coming together, identifying where the criteria are met of this. And we will have, I can say this, reasonable degree of, a high degree of confidence. We have more potential nation-building projects than the country can build at any one time. And so the challenge is or the opportunity / challenge is coming together around, coalescing around certain ones so that they can move forward, and those will be jointly determined.
So it depends on all of these factors that have to be considered before we build anything. And of course, he, and along with the Liberal government, will decide what gets built here. So Scott Moe and Danielle Smith, who have these big plans, well, they have to go and beg to him to get something done. I want to know if Quebec comes to Carney with a big nation-building project that's a bunch of solar panels in the middle of Quebec, and Danielle Smith comes to Carney with an oil pipeline, which one do you think Mark Carney is going to choose? We'll get to the elephant in the room in just a moment. I mean, Carney says we have more nation-building projects than the country can build at any one time. Well, Moe says there's literally in excess of 100 projects. And Danielle Smith nodding along. Oh, yeah. Well, let them decide that. We live out here in Alberta and Saskatchewan. We can make our minds up. No. Moe and Smith have to go beg and prostrate themselves in front of Mark Carney. And then, of course, there's that word that popped up once again, which I'll get to in just a moment. But what is the elephant in the room here? It's the elephant that's been around for a long time that I saw. I could see the whole elephant. I said earlier it was behind the couch, and you could see its ear, its head, and part of its trunk. I could see the elephant when this guy got into the race, when his face showed up, and he was talking about running for the leadership of the Liberal Party. He mentioned it in the news conference the other day about C-5.
Yeah, we've been rightly stressing here is partnership with Indigenous peoples, but I will also stress consistency with our climate goals and environmental responsibilities.
We've kind of come full circle here now. We have to build things at great speed, nation-building projects, but we now go back to climate goals and environmental responsibilities, the elephant in the room, and you've seen it all along. So we go back to Danielle Smith and her demands: access to Tidewater, repeal the No New Pipelines Law, C-69, the oil tanker ban, oil and gas emissions cap, net zero electricity regulations, ending the plastics ban, net zero electric vehicle mandate, return of oversight of industrial carbon tax to provinces, and halt the censorship of the energy industry. As I said earlier, Carney has given the big FU to Danielle Smith on 2 of these things. How long before they're all gone because of climate goals and environmental responsibilities? There's the elephant in the room. And you and I saw it all the time. I just don't think things are going to get built because of that. Because their plan is net zero by 2050. They've never, ever said they'd repeal that. And what does this do to investment? I mean, if you're in the oil and gas industry, would you invest in this country with the word, and I wrote it down, ambiguity? Definition, the lack of exactness? I think that Danielle Smith and Scott Moe want him to be exactly clear on where he stands on pipelines and our resources industry, and he's not being that way. He's being ambiguous. And then the big word is back. And he uses it all the time, but he brought it up during C-5 the other day, and it hasn't been resolved. He said it all the time during the election campaign to scare people.
I hate to say it, but we are in the middle of the toughest crisis that we have ever experienced. From my experience of how you deal with a crisis. And I've seen a lot of crises, but...
And here he is in his C-5 news conference.
This bill unlocks that. Yes, it unlocks it in quick time, but in quick time because we are in a crisis.
Crisis. We're in a crisis. It's the crisis of our lifetime. He even went into all the people that this crisis was hurting. And government's now on vacation for the next couple of months. I guess I should be thankful because as long as government isn't really sitting, it might save me a little bit of money. But they're not solving this problem if they're on vacation. And I don't think he wants to solve the problem because it's easier for Carney and the people who support him to hate Donald Trump to actually sit down and resolve this problem. And remember, the other guy said government would be sitting all summer long to get things done. The promise of Canada is over as far as I'm concerned. That's why I'm an independent Albertan. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Hope you liked the video. Please like it if you did. Please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell for notifications, and I will see you in the next one.